Hey, how you guys doing? It's Mike Siefer. So I just wanted to go over a little bit of reloading. I've seen a few videos of a couple of my buddies online about reloading, and I just kind of wanted to go over my setup, just if anybody else was on the fence about doing any reloading, or they weren't sure if they had enough room, or they weren't smart enough to set any of this stuff up because it looks so complicated, but it's really not that complicated. As you can see, I got all my stuff over here in my at my grandmother's house. Actually, this is on my grandfather's old workbench. It's tucked right over in the corner right here, as you can see. So you literally need about 2 feet of space. I got all the stuff that I kind of use behind it. It really doesn't take up that much room. You need a couple spots on the floor for some of your bullets and powder, primers, all that good stuff. But at the end of the day, the machine itself is pretty compact and it does the job pretty well. I'm loading on a 650 here. I got a case feeder. No bullet feeder like all the other cool people, or all the no primer feeder like all you other cool people. But let me tell you what, man, this machine gets the job done. Same every time, and I've never had an issue with it. If you shoot any amount of ammo throughout the year, unless you're a guy that takes a guy or a girl that takes your gun out of the safe once a year and shoots 50 rounds with it and then cleans it and puts it away until next year, I don't suggest you need one of these. But everybody else, at the end of the day, this machine will not go bad. And it will pay for itself. I'm literally making ammo here for 50% of what you'd be buying it at the store, and it's made for my gun. I know exactly how fast the bullets are coming out. I've done a couple test loads with different types of rounds. Right now, obviously, I'm using blue bullets. Thinking about, I was just talking to my buddy Ryan Pobleet over at our match last weekend, and he was saying something about that he could get me some Abiji heads. I'd really like to try out some Abiji heads. I've seen them, and they look like a cool load. But at the end of the day, what I'd like to do here is just, I wanted to kind of make 100 rounds for you guys and show you the process and get it all set up, just in case you guys weren't sure what to do or how to do it. It's really not that difficult. And like I said, if you shoot any amount of ammo throughout the year, you're paying 50% for the ammo. So the machine at some point will pay for itself. I've got probably, call it 45,000 rounds for this machine, so it paid for itself 1.5 times over, no problem. And like I said, the bullets that you're making, it's really nice. So let me get set up here, come back, and show you guys how to load the primers and do all that kind of stuff, and just get it rocking. So, all right, so about to load up some primers. I'm using Federal small pistol primers. They come in the 100 pack like this. I'm also using the Frankford Arsenal Vibra Prime system. Definitely saves time, definitely worth the money that you pay for it, instead of having to pick them up one at a time. I'm going to show you the process with how that works here. Here is the primer turner. It's got I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's got a small side and it's got a large side for whatever kind of primers that you're loading. In this particular case, I'm doing a load of 9 here for my MPX. Shooting this weekend over at New Holland. I'm pretty pumped about that. But I'm going to be using the small side primer. So I'm going to start by putting that in, flipping it over. I kind of let them all that, throw that in the garbage. Now here you're going to shake them all around, sort of like the other Dillon one, but instead of flipping them so that you have the silver side facing up, it flips them all so that they're kind of upside down, or what it would be if you were going to poke them into your primer tube. Once you do that, you're going to take your Vibra primer and you're going to stick that into there. Take the small pistol primer. The kit comes with a small tube and a large tube. In this particular case, I need the small tube, obviously, because I'm doing my 9mm load here. And then you're just going to squeeze the trigger. Oop, and watch the thing load in there. See if I can get it on video. And so much faster, so much easier. Now I'm going to load up another 100. Normally when I'm doing these, I'm doing about 600 at a time, or 700. So at the end of the day, this is going to be a small load here, but then you take that, you drop it right into your primer tube, put back in the clothespin thingy-majigger, and there's one tube. So there's that. Let's take it apart. Here's my next 100. Same deal. This goes in there. Flip that over. Okay. Throw that out. Give her a little shake. Get them so that they're all facing the right way. Okay. Put your plastic piece over the top. Insert into the Vibra primer. Put your catcher on there, and then pull the trigger, and then just kind of feed them in there. And like I said, instead of spending 25 minutes loading up 200 or 300 tubes, it's going to take you about 5 minutes. Well worth the investment. All right, now I'm pretty sure that I have enough brass in there already, but I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of a trick here, because one thing I noticed that when you're loading 9mm is if you have a 40 in there, you're gonna have an issue. So what I like to do is I bought the 3 set here. Let me see if I can grab that. The 45, the case separator here from that you can buy online. All right, and what I like to do is I buy my brass by 6,000 rounds, and it's already clean. It's like 160 bucks. I don't really remember what website it's on, but I scoop up a bunch like this and I dump them into my 40, and I have my 9mm underneath that. This is one of the ways that I found that you can just prevent yourself from having any type of issues when it comes to loading. This is one thing that could be a problem with the Dillon, because the 9mm green thingamajig there doesn't actually work with 40, so they'll get stuck in there before they get fed into the machine. So what I like to do is I take my supposedly all 9mm box of brass and run it through my 40 first. And in this particular case, I got no extra 40s, but you will find every once in a while that you do get a 40 that sneaks through there, and it's better to get them out now than when you start loading. So throw that aside. I'm not having all in my 9mm thing. I'm going to take my Dillon case lube, which I just got. Usually I use 1-shot, but they were out of 1-shot at the store. So and this is where I'm a little different than most people. I hear people say, you don't want to put too much. And then there's other people that are really cool that have all sweet roll sizers that say, I don't need to lube at all. Well, good for you people. I'm just poor. So at the end of the day, this is what we got. I really lube the crap out of all these pieces of brass because it just makes them run through the machine a little bit smoother. And past that, I'm going to dump them up in the machine and get them running through the machine. So here we go. All right, so I'm going to load up my primers here the best I can. I got the video camera in one hand. I'm going to take out that. I have the sensor thing that you buy. All those are now loaded. 100 in there. Little tip and trick here for everybody. Before you actually put your brass down the tube, give that handle 6 pumps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now turn on your case feeder. The reason that you pull it 6 times is because now that I'm gonna pull the handle again and load 1 piece of brass into the first stage here, right here. And by the time it gets to the second stage here where it loads the primer's gonna be there. So by pulling it 6 times, you've actually just taken out all that guessing, and you know that when you start actually loading the machine that it's gonna be working for you. So let's talk about the powder a little bit. I know there's a big debate. I know some of my buddies, they always dump the powder after every time they load. I guess I'm just a rebel. I don't do that at all. I mean, I'm here maybe once a week, once every 2 weeks at worst to make some ammo. So I mean, my powder does run through. I'd say if you're only loading every once in a while, then maybe you do want to dump it. But at the end of the day, given your volume, I can tell you from personal experience that there is no issue with leaving the powder in there. I've never had like a load that was light or anything like that. And so I would say just go with it. That's the other thing too. All these people that are always like, oh, you're making those powder puff loads. To make an adjustment on this machine, you know, you gotta turn this little screw right here to get the powder to be different measurement. And then to do that, once you make an adjustment to that little screw, it takes like 9 or 10 pulls before it starts throwing out the powder at the right weight. And then you got to sit there and you got to weigh it and do the whole 9. So at the end of the day, I literally shoot my match load all the time. I don't change this for any match in particular, like whether we're doing knockdown steel or whatever. I feel like by using the same load all the time, it just leads to being more consistent. And at the end, that's really what the game is all about. I mean, if you're going to use a different gun every time you shoot, you can't expect to do well. And same thing with loads. If you're going to shoot a different load every time, or you know, you got 2 loads, one for long distance, one for short distance, I highly suggest that you find one load that works all the time and you just use that. And I think that you'll start to really get into what the recoil is doing with your gun and that particular load. And I'd say just stick with what you're doing. So everybody that thinks that we make powder puff loads, when I think it's a huge pain in the ass in order to change the machine. So I just kind of leave it where it's at and we go with it. So. All right, so We already pulled that handle 6 times, so now my brass is in the tube. Primers are loaded, pretty much ready to go. So I'm gonna start pulling the handle and here we go. One of the things that I don't really understand that I see people doing when they load is how slow they're going and how careful they're being. I mean, I load a lot, so I kind of have the feel for the machine, and like, you know, I really have a hard push on the downstroke right here. I want to make sure that I seat my bullet and I get everything as far down as it's supposed to be, so that the machine is setting the bullets and all that good stuff where it's supposed to. But then on the up push here, I'm not really cranking too hard on that. I mean, it's kind of like a hard push and then a light push and then a hard push and then a light push and a hard push and a light push. So like, you kind of just get the rhythm going. And you can feel the primers every time you go forward. Every little, you know, since I buy random pieces of brass, because I'm cheap and I can't afford Starline straight out, which Starline is great brass, I have used it before. Every piece of brass feels a little bit different going through the machine, and you really get a feel for whether or not that the primer actually went in, or it's a crushed primer, or, you know, stuff like that. So like, the most important part of this thing is kind of the forward stroke, and seeing that the primer is kind of where you want it to be. You don't want to push too hard and you don't want to be too light with it. I've never had an issue on this machine though with light primers or being too high. I mean, I guess if anything, I've had to calm down a little bit, because I always used to mash the primer so that they were completely flat, which I guess is a little dangerous, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. Everybody likes to have their own style, I guess. My style with this, the most important part of this machine, you saw a couple bullets ago that I had a problem with the first stage. One of my cases didn't really feed right, and that's only because I'm sitting here trying to do this video. But normally, I'm not even looking at the bullets that I'm putting into the actual case. I'm staring at stage number 1, because 9 out of your 10 problems are going to come from stage 1. Whether that bullet doesn't actually push forward into the first stage right, if that bullet doesn't actually make it all the way to seat with the black turnstile thing, I don't know what the hell it's called, and it's sticking out a little bit, you're actually going to get it to hit on the die that knocks out the primer. So a lot of your problems happen from where we sorted the brass. Okay, you want to make sure that you get all the bigger pieces of brass out if you're doing 9mm. You really want to make sure that you have all the right size at the end of the day anyway. But that one piece that you just dumped in, and when you sorted your 5,000 cases or whatever it is that you're gonna load, you know, that one particular piece is gonna shut down your operation for a good 5 or 10 minutes before you can make that 40 come out of there. You kind of got to take apart the tube and all that good stuff. So you really want to avoid having bigger bullets when you're loading 9mm. You want to make sure you at least have just 9mm. Sometimes a little 22 sneaks into one of the cases, but again, that's why you're watching the first stage, because if there is a little 22 that's stuck in one of those 9mm cases, you can see it as it comes down from stage 1. The reason I have my 650 set up with the powder check over here, so that way I do not have to worry about there not being enough powder. I can literally just stare at stage 1 the entire time and make sure those bullets are coming out of the case feeder and into the first stage properly, because after that the machine pretty much has it perfectly. Run's actually going pretty well. I only had that one case jump out. Usually, I say I have 100 rounds, usually there's 1 or 2 that are going to give me an issue with either like that happening with the case jumping out, or with like a primer not going in right. God forbid you got a crappy piece of brass. You heard the thing go off. That was my 100 round limit. I'm going to put another 100 rounds in and kind of keep it rolling here. But yeah, I mean, that's the main gist of it. So you're kind of just, you know, letting the machine do what it does. Once you have the thing set the way you wanted it, and you know, the other thing with having a reloader is you got to either be like right here. Here's a perfect example. So this piece of brass is not going into that, okay? So that's why I'm staring at stage 1. This piece of brass right here is screwing up the whole operation. So I take that out real quick. I'll reach up into my case feeder and I grab the next one that was about to be dropped, and I can put that into stage 1, okay? And there we go. just want to do a few more and show you guys one of my other little tricks here. All right, I still got a few to go, but at the end of the day, what I really want to show you here is another one of my tricks. So because I use the lube and it runs through the machine, one thing that I found, I case check with a Dillon case checker. So my case checker, I do each bullet individually, one at a time. One, make sure it's good, dump it into my good bucket. If not, yeah, and when you make 4,000 rounds or whatever you make, yeah, you do one at a time. It sucks, but I feel really confident that way, that even those 100-round things that you see a lot of people using, which are nice, you'll still get a few that are like, oh, I can push them in there, and then you're not really getting the, I'm looking at every single bullet. So I really like that individual case checker. The only thing that I found, my little trick that I found over the past year and a half that I've been reloading is, from running it through the machine with all the lube, it gets kind of dirty. And when you go to case check your ammo, I had a lot of ammo that I would reject because it was tight or something like that. And what I found was, it's just because the ammo is dirty. So I take my 9mm case separator, right, and I line it with a piece of paper towel, right? And then after you make a few hundred rounds, usually I do 150 rounds per layer. And then after I would do this, I would layer another piece of paper towel on top and dump another 150 rounds. And then when you're done, you can kind of shake it around. Or in this particular case, since I'm only making a few, you spin it around, and then you really want to clean off the ammo after you're done loading it. Because by the time you go to case check it, okay, all that dirt and that grit that's stuck in between or on the outside of the brass or in the rim of the cartridge here, you know, that kind of stuff can make it seem like your ammo is no good when in fact it's just dirty. And I have a lot less rejects now that I do it this way, and I'll take it and I'll just clean it off. I mean, you can already see a little bit on the bottom. I got a little bit of dark matter there, and I got kind of a little bit of crap here that's falling off from the bullet shavings. And it's just stuff that you don't want to be on your bullets when you actually go to case check, because it's just gonna screw up your day. So, I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, the Dillon runs every time. I mean, I'm 130 rounds through. I had that one case that didn't feed right, but past that, everything's been going just swell. And I don't have to hold the machine like a crazy madman, and you know, I don't have to worry about having 400 primers or that go bad or something's turning in the machine. I mean, once I have it kind of set, it's set, and the thing does what it's supposed to do. So, I mean, if you do any kind of shooting, man, I highly suggest at least getting yourself a 650. The 550 with, you know, the best part about this machine is the auto index. The fact that you do not have to manually move this wheel around each time you pull the handle. So the 650 is the first one that auto indexes. I mean, yeah, you can go out and get, you know, if you have a little bit of cash and you want to buy a 1050 and set it all up, that's cool too. But I highly suggest you get on a reloading machine if you do any type of shooting throughout the year. It just makes sense. I mean, you can buy, you know, obviously I'm loading 9 here. You can load 223, you can load 45, you can load 40, you can load whatever you want. You just got to buy the dies for it. They do make machines for shotguns. I don't know how practical it is to load shotgun. I haven't done that. Usually I just buy those shells, but for load 9, I mean, I'm literally loading my own 9mm for my gun with the right power factor and all that good stuff for 50% of the cost that I would buy it in a box. So, and I'm talking about like Winchester white box. I'm not even talking about good 9mm. So, I don't know. It's up to you guys, but if you shoot at all, I would seriously look into getting a 650. And if you guys have any questions about any of it, I'd be more than happy to let you know what's up. So, thanks. Hope you guys enjoyed the video.